All right, here to talk about overcoming diversity and building a championship mindset. One more round of applause for Mr. Andre Petroski.
I'm here with the winner, Andre Petroski. Andre, you have said that you think that you're the best grappler in this 185-pound division. Andre Petroski, ladies and gentlemen.
It's nice to not have to fight for once.
It sure is, Andre. Come to Apollo Brand and experience the difference.
Yeah, it's the jewel of Sewell.
Let's experience the difference.
It's the jewel of Sewell.
Experience the difference.
Well, guys, we're both here. Experience the difference at the jewel of Sewell.
Before we get started, I want to kind of just share with you that it's an honor to have Andre Petroski here at the IS20G. First of all, I'm a huge UFC fan, but more than that, me and Andre have become very good friends over the last couple years. And my man over here actually trains my son, Sean V. Bradley, over there in wrestling. And sequel in the house, come on. And I got to know him and on a personal level, you know what I mean? As far as being a father, just a man, a friend, and I think he's gonna be perfect for us. And coincidentally, had nothing to do with me, he already has a sponsor in the automotive industry, as you saw, Apollo Automotive, who's actually has been to IS20G before. But with that being said, I wanna get into this, brother. Can you please just give us a little bit of your background? How did this start? How did you get into the UFC? How long has this been your dream to be a professional fighter?
So the short version is I grew up in Springfield, Pennsylvania. My dad was a fighter. He wrestled at Penn State. So I grew up in this fighting family. My brother was a wrestler. My uncles were all wrestlers. And I always grew up watching the old UFC, WEC days, the Hoist Gracies, like the original fighting. And I, at the time I was only wrestling, but I was always a fan. I was a fan first. And my dad also ran a karate studio, and I watched and watched. And at the time, my passion was wrestling. I wrestled all through high school and college. I went to the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. When wrestling was over, I started fighting. I've been fighting for about 10 years. I've been in the UFC for about the last 3 years, and I've had a lot of success. I've had a lot of ups and downs. I've definitely faced some adversity in my life, not only in the ring and on the wrestling mat, but outside of it, for sure. But yeah, that's I met Sean, and I've learned a lot from Sean. He's introduced me to a lot of great people, and taught me a lot of great things, and I just want to say thank you.
Oh, brother, it's a pleasure. First and foremost is overcome adversity. You just kind of alluded to it right here, but let me kind of set this up. In dealerships, so many times we don't hit our bonus, or we don't hit our mark, or we don't get the hat trick, or we don't hit the spiff, and then we give up. You know, so many times we give up before we break through to greatness. And I thought, let me ask somebody what it's like to be in front of millions of people and you plan in a fight camp and shit doesn't go your right way. Okay, the difference in my opinion of a professional athlete versus an amateur is the perseverance to be able to go through it. So my first question is, how do you handle, in front of millions of people, again, have an outcome you had in your mind and it doesn't happen? How do you not just fucking go to bed and huddle up or whatever? How do you fight through the losses?
Good question. So two things. One, something my coach always used to say is he would say champions have short memories, right? So if if we lose, you know, or we suffer a defeat, it's always on to the next thing. It's always on, and whether you lose a fight, I lose a fight, or you know, you lose a sale, it's like you can't get wrapped up in that. If you get discouraged, it's only going to set you back, right? You move on right away. Champions have short memories. The other thing, and I think this is really the biggest thing, is perspective, right? I think perspective is everything. Recently, I did. Me and my girlfriend, we did a training course with Sean. It was the Stephen Covey that he mentioned earlier, the 7 Habits, and he talks about paradigms a lot. And I think that's been huge for me. So a little while ago, I would say about 6 years ago, I went through some tragic events. I suffered with substance abuse for a long period of my life, and it came to a head. And through that experience of getting clean and going through I was arrested and I went through that whole process, I learned a lot. And I remember when I lost my first UFC fight. At the time I was 5-0, and I lost my first UFC fight, and I was like, I was down a bit, you know, and I was really beating myself up over it. And I realized that, like, I just had to put things in perspective. And at the end of the day, like, my family's healthy, you know, I'm not addicted to a substance. I'm not in jail, you know. I have all these things to be grateful for. So I think that perspective of always looking for the silver lining in everything is huge. And with adversity always is going to come change, right? And I think that adversity brings pain, right? And for someone like myself, like, I'm not changing unless there's pain. Like, unless I'm suffering, like, I'm not changing. If it ain't broke, I'm not gonna fix it. So adversity causes that pain, and for me, that some of that pain has caused me to make the biggest, most significant changes in my life.
Man,
Wow.
that was...
Absolutely phenomenal. Hey, Sean, can I ask you a question?
Yeah, absolutely, real quick.
So listen, how do you, because where you come from, it's looked at as a negative thing. Oh, you always looking at something with the silver lining. Oh, you. People like try to talk down because you think that way. What's your response to someone that speaks that way?
I mean, if you want to live on that side of the bridge, you live on that side of the bridge. I'm gonna be over here. We're gonna be growing businesses, selling cars, whatever y'all want to do, winning flights.
Right.
Yeah. I'm gonna look for
go.
the silver lining no matter what. You know what I mean? If you want to be with me, you be with me. If not.
All right, so this kind of goes into the next thing, the champion mindset. And we've talked about this. I'm a huge fan of The Secret, The Laws of Attraction, John Jones, Conor McGregor. There's so many amazing fighters that basically talk about manifesting, about picturing themselves as a UFC champion. Do you practice manifestation, or you practice having your own vision board and things like that? If so, in what way?
Yeah, that's a great question. So my mantra is I can be, do, or have anything, right? And I say that to myself, and like I really mean it. Sometimes like I'm terrible at like getting still, right? Like really getting still and getting quiet. And sometimes what helps me is I'll sit and I'll think, I'll say, I can be, do, or have anything. I can be anything. Like, all right, and then I sit and I'll just think about it, and I'll meditate on it. Meditation's tough for me, so I'll sit and I'll say, all right, what do I want to be? Like, and I'll just sit there and think about it. What do I want to do? Like, and I'll just, so this is my mantra, right? So in between rounds, like it's a rough round, right? Let's say I'm down on the scorecards. I go back to the corner and I say those things. I can do anything. I can do anything. Like that type of interpersonal work for me is something that didn't come until later in my career. And sometimes I think like how much more I could have accomplished if I would have discovered this part of me sooner, right? It wasn't until I overcame the adversity to where I really started having this introspective look into myself.
You mentioned that you enjoyed Damian Mills when he was on here, and Damian said, and he concurred with like what Cardone says, is that think bigger, right? I know a lot of people, because we talked about this in the past, might be like, oh, you're going to be a UFC fighter? That's never going to work. That's not realistic. Again, you're living your dream. How many people actually get to live their dream? So what do you say to people about, dreaming big and following where your heart is?
I remember when, two things that made me think of. I remember when I was probably like 9 months to a year clean, and I was working 7 days a week, and my daughter was about maybe like a couple months old, and I worked 7 days a week, and I was getting ready for a fight, and I would just pray like all the time, like, I just can't wait for the day where I don't have to go to work and I can just focus on like my career and my job. And like, I remember when that came, and it was just like, man, like having that big picture of being able to look at it and be like, one day, like I'm gonna be able to focus on what I love and my dream, and that's gonna be it.
And that's awesome. This is a selfish thing as a trainer. I could not talk about this. One of the frustrating points is going into dealerships and people are not training. They're not practicing, they're not drilling, they're not rehearsing, they're not doing that stuff. What they're doing is they're burning through ups. They're practicing with real customers all the time. Some men in this room spend a lot of money on Brad and Man and training, and they don't really go through it because they think they know it all. They think it's good. Can you explain what a fight camp is like? For a mixed martial artist, this is not boxing, how many different types of coaches, styles of martial arts, nutritionists, all that stuff? Just give us some perspective of a professional fighter's team of coaches and trainers in all the categories.
I like what you said, and I think working hard is incredibly important, right? Hard work is important, but in my line of business where your health is at risk, and it's, I don't want to say life or death, but it is kind of life or death. It's like everyone's working hard. Everyone's working hard. Am I working smart though? It's work smarter. I think that, like, I could wake up every day, Sean, and I could go run 20 miles. Would I be working hard?
A little bit.
That'd be hard work, right?
Yeah.
But am I getting better? Like, am I doing the right things? Am I asking my mentors? Am I working on my weaknesses, right? If I'm not working on my weaknesses, like, I don't think I'm progressing. I'm not getting better. And I think that's that part of that adversity where, okay, I lose a fight or I lose a sale, right? Am I going back and, like what Damian was talking about with the self-reflection, am I going back and am I reflecting on, well, what could I have done better? Like, what did I lose? What are my weaknesses? And I go back and work on them. If you continue to do that, like, I can guarantee you're going to get better. I can guarantee you're going to have success. Oof. Whether you're selling cars or fighting.
You specialize, you're the #1 grappler in the middleweight division, so you're a Division I wrestler, so you wrestle. You're a brown belt knocking on black belt door in Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. You were just in Thailand, training in Muay Thai kickboxing. You have to learn judo. You have to learn boxing. You have all these different coaches. And correct me if I'm wrong, it's because in a fight, what did Mike Tyson say? You have a plan. Everybody's got a plan to get punched in the face, right? So you have to be prepared and cross-trained for every situation. Am I correct? There's so much diversity.
Yeah, absolutely. So, for me, my personal journey is I grew up wrestling my entire life, and striking wasn't my first base, right? So, I prayed, and I got to that point where I could just focus on fighting, and I didn't have a job, and one of the blessings that came with that was I wanted to work on my striking, so I went to the place where I knew that I could definitely get better striking. So I flew out to Thailand, and I did 2 weeks in Thailand where I just completely immersed myself in that world of where, all these striking experts. And it's a similar situation to you guys coming here and learning and listening to experts and Damian and these guys that talk about how they became so successful. So I think that's one example of working smart, working hard, but working smart, right? I'm going to go pick the minds. I'm going to be a sponge. I'm going to be a student. Like, doesn't matter if I'm a black belt or a white belt. Every day when I come in and I'm with Sean or I'm with these guys, like, I'm going to be a white belt. Those are the days I'm going to be a white belt. When it comes time to perform, when the guy walks in the door and I got to make a sale, all right, now I'm a black belt. It's knowing when to put the white belt on and the black belt on. That's what matters.
The next aspect of this, I use this analogy in training. Some of you all are my clients, and you've never heard me say this, but little kids, Xander, I don't know if my 10-year-old's here, he's been on the Pee Wee football team, the Medford Renegades, for years. But in his head, right, he's like an NFL athlete in his mind. He's practice drilling, he's trying to do what he's doing. But there is a difference of the Medford Renegades versus Shawnee High School versus college versus the NFL versus an all-star or Pro Bowler NFL versus winning a Super Bowl versus winning 7 Super Bowls. There's different degrees, there's different levels to success. We run around here so many times, we're automotive professionals. We use that word so loosely, professionals. Let it linger, professional, right? But really, are we? What does it take to be a professional athlete? What does it take to be a professional athlete? Are you truly at the UFC level, or are you in the backyard slap boxing your cousin trying to front? The difference is on the level of dedication and preparation that you put into it. Would you agree, my brother?
Absolutely.
That's the only difference of playing UFC 5 on PlayStation versus being in that ring, is the amount of dedication that you put to your craft. Are you mastering your craft? Can I ask you another dumbass question?
Of
Could
course.
you watch a Jackie Chan video and go fight for the title just by watching one video?
Heck no.
How about a whole series of binge watching Netflix on like The Warrior on Showtime? Are you ready to go into the cage?
No, sir.
Okay, so now how the hell do you guys think that you could just watch a couple videos on YouTube and you're about that life? I said, how could you watch a couple videos and think you're really about that life? The answer is that you're not. You've got to put in your work. You've got to turn around and put in that work, that dedication. So I brought a UFC fighter here to show you what that's like. So we're about to get on the floor. I'm kidding. No, we don't have to do that. I don't want no smoke here.
What percentage of you in that octagon do you think is mindset? What percentage is preparation? And what percentage do you think is that resilience that you're talking about? I hate to break it down in a pie chart like that, but truthfully, you've been in places we've never been, right?
Yeah. So I've had, I won my first wrestling tournament when I was 4 years old. I'm 32 now. So I've been competing since I was, as young as they could be. And I've been on so many teams and had so many teammates. And I've had teammates that in the practice room, they were world champions. Like nobody could touch them. They were incredible. But when it came time to, game time and, there's 3 seconds left on the clock and you got to shoot that jump shot, they just couldn't pull the trigger. And that's mindset. That's that being able to perform is so big. So if, I don't know, maybe 50-50, like if you can't have one without the other. Just like you can't be a champion without the work ethic, and you can't be, the best without being able to perform.
You talked a little bit about, kind of how you get your mind right after you lose a fight. What do you do when you're in the moment? And I know as a champion grappler, most people don't have you tied up, but sometimes when you're tied up and you have to keep your mind calm, is it a mantra? Is it breathing? Is it so much training that you just react? What are you doing in those moments?
So I've recently, that's a really good question, and there's a million ways, right? But I started working with this sports psychologist recently, and he was basically saying through life, and especially in the middle of a fight, right? You're gonna have these negative thoughts are gonna start coming in, right? And the way he compared it, the analogy he used was like you're on a bad frequency on a radio station, right? So you're hearing all the static, you've got bad thoughts, like I'm tired, whatever it is, like I'm not gonna get this sale. What I'm talking about, right? All I gotta do is change that station. I got it in my mind, I'm gonna change the station. All right, now I'm gonna start. How do I do that? All right, I'm gonna ground myself. What's my intention here? All right, I'm gonna do my best to focus on this, move my head, keep my hands up, like whatever it is. So that's how I do it. I change that station by grounding myself and getting back to my intention. The only limits are the ones that we put on ourselves, for sure. Everyone can probably relate to this is like, okay, at some point, at least if it wasn't in the beginning or at some point we're like, all right, I'm gonna get to this point and then maybe I'll stop. Or like, they have that bar that they set. And I think that's totally normal. Like we all have this bar. So like for me, I never really dreamed, to be honest with you, I never dreamed of being able to be a world champion. I just wanted to not be on drugs, or I just wanted to make it to the UFC, or for the longest time it was I just want to be able to fight and not have to go to work. I want fighting to be my job and that to pay the bills. So I think that what I'm getting at is when I got to that point, I didn't just roll over and be content. yeah, we got to set the bar. We continue to set new bars, right? So let's say you get to that 30 a month and that's your goal. It's like you don't be content there. You continue to grow and grow and grow. Yeah, I always use the analogy like I'm a greedy fighter, right? So like I want finishes, right? I want to sell, I want to close those deals. It's not like greedy in the sense of like, you know, it's toxic, but in the sense of like I'm hungry. Like I just want more and more and more.
My biggest challenge is turning off. And like my wife will tell me all the time, hey, you need to sleep, or yeah, you got to go push your kid on the swing, or yo, have you eaten in the last 14 hours? It's just constantly this. But when it comes time to, hey, I need to sleep, I need to power down, like I need to mentally, how do you do that when you're this passionate about what you do?
I honestly don't have the answer. Like I don't like balance. I don't know if balance is in the plan for me. Like I'm obsessive, you know what I mean? Like I'm almost like to a fault. Like, you know, like when I have a fight, once I get that name, that opponent, like, dude, it's all I think about. Like I go home and I watch film like all night. Like it's tough for me, honestly. Like I don't have the answer. I train all day, right? And I'm grateful that I get to, right? I get to train in the morning and at night, and then I go home and I'm obsessed, you know what I mean? But at the same time, like it's got to be fun too. Like, you know, all the research is there that when you're having fun, you're learning more. When you're having fun, you're producing more. Like the research is there. If it's not fun, your gas tank is smaller. Your tank is smaller. Your energy levels are smaller. Like if you make it fun, and you can still be obsessed with it, but if you're having fun, you're going to produce more.
Andre, brother, thank you very much.
Hey.
Listen, if you don't have access to Bradley On Demand, you're missing out on crucial information. The top automotive groups like Coons, Lithia, and Norm Reeves have all used Bradley On Demand to train their teams. And guess what? The world's #1 car salesman, Cody Carter, shares his exclusive strategies right here. You want his secrets? You gotta have Bradley On Demand. Stop waiting and start winning. Dominate your market. Click the link and get access now.